everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Screen Chronicles. My name is Steve, and with me, as always, is Colbstone, the once and future Colbstone. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Steve. The reason Steve said that, and as I reference here, the T.H. White once and future king, is because we have been on a bit of a King Arthur themed kick this past year, including things like the King Arthur movie, things like
a bunch of King Arthur movies.
Yeah.
I think they're all called a King Arthur.
The King Arthur movie.
Or Excalibur.
Sir Gawain, the Green Knight.
We saw Green Knight.
Which we saw.
We saw it. We saw Cursed.
Cursed?
Or was that 2020 Cursed? 2020 was Cursed.
Yeah, but we saw Cursed. So we've been really into this King Arthur.
And we've been reading books.
And let's reference Bernard Cornwell's fantastic Excalibur series.
The Warlord Chronicles.
The last book's called Excalibur.
Yes.
And
they're amazing.
It's fantastic. We highly recommend it. If you don't know who Bernard Cornwell is, he wrote all the Last Kingdom novels that the show is based off of. And we kind of talked about this in our live show with him that they're going to do a show based on his King Arthur books. We're very excited for, but we highly recommend those. But all of this King Arthur stuff made us want more. And so we started watching this show that we've heard about for a long time. It's been out for a long time, called Merlin. Why we haven't watched it, or I think, Steve, you said you did watch some of it when you were younger, but I'd never watched it. I don't know why, because it's pretty much right up our alley.
Yeah. So first off, we're going to start here with a spoiler-free review of the show, and then we're going to get into some spoiler talk here. Just sort of talk about our favorite characters and moments, things we thought about the show, and give you some more details about some of our spoiler-free talk here. So if you haven't seen the show, Merlin, you can listen to this first bit. And if you don't care about spoilers, you can watch the whole thing. You can listen to the whole thing.
Totally.
We're on YouTube podcast. Check everything out in the links of the description below. Make sure you subscribe, follow, all that fun stuff.
Leave us a comment. Love to hear what you think.
Leave us a comment what you thought about the show. Merlin, the show, it aired back in 2008. It stars Colin Morgan, Bradley James, Katie McGrath, Andrew Colby, Richard Wilson, John Hurt, tons and tons of great people. It was a show about Merlin, who is the wizard from the mythical lore of King Arthur.
Right.
But this is him as a young kid meeting young Arthur. And it's supposed to be sort of the setup and build into the Arthur lore. And then that's kind of what it tells you it is.
Right.
And that's what it feels like. And it feels like where it's going. I have to say, when I first saw the show, I think I saw it was on NBC or CBS or ABC or something like that here in the US. I think it aired on BBC. It was BBC who made it. But in the US, I think it came on one of those networks. And then it went to Sci-Fi station after a year or two. It got picked up by them here in the US. But anyway, though, I watched like an episode or two. And when I was younger, and I only watched like a little bit, and I saw like this sort of cheesy CGI fight with Arthur and this other creature. Like, this is all I saw. I didn't even see the setup to it or anything. And I was just like, that looks bad. That's not Lord of the Rings level,
Star Wars level.
That's not Star Wars level. And so I just missed it because I was a little idiot. And and then I watched that scene again now, even with today's CGI is so much better. It didn't bother me nearly as much because I was invested in the story at that point. So
right. And
so that's why I didn't watch it.
Admittedly, a lot of the CGI and effects like that are not great because I think of what the budget was for the show, but I think they did get better as the show went on. I think early on it was like,
one exception.
Yeah, well, there's some exceptions, but I can think of that one too.
Remember that? I think
we'll
what kind of thing I'm talking about.
Yep, I know exactly what you're talking about. But overall, it got better.
Yeah.
What was great about the show that shows with big budgets have not executed on is the fighting. I have to admit, the fighting skills and the battles that we did see and the one-on-one duels, they were pretty entertaining to watch.
Choreography was top notch.
choreography was really good with the sword fights and things like that. A lot of props to the actors and the choreographers, stunt performers for that.
Jousting,
Jousting was
duels,
fantastic. Yeah,
those were the things that just it made me just. I wanted this medieval castle thing to just hit me. The show that I could watch,
totally.
and the show it scratched that itch for me.
Yeah, they had some fantastic, antagonists coming in throughout the show. I think the show starts off as sort of, one episode adventures, and the next one's a new adventure, which is fun. You're just going to get a new story every time. And then I think the last couple seasons, it becomes sort of an overarching theme for the story. But each episode would kind of have a different villain or maybe the same recurring villain with a different problem, which was fun to see how the main characters would figure it out.
Yeah. I'd say it starts off, it's a very sort of lighthearted show, even though it can be kind of intense.
It's totally lighthearted.
And like you brought up to me, and then I agreed with it, is it has kind of like Harry Potter, like the early kind of Harry Potter feels to it.
Definitely like gives me those vibes.
Magical, but serious. And then you love all the characters, and it's goofy, but it's also cool to watch.
Yeah. It's very lighthearted. And I would say that about the show. I think sometimes it has some corny humor, which is fine. And I think it kind of maybe does not allow me to get into the show as deeply as I might something that has more of a serious tone in the show. Do you know what I mean by that? It really did make
they
it.
Just want like Game of Thrones, like heavy, dark, that stuff all the time. I was fine with it though. I liked it because then the show will sometimes. I'd say the last 2 seasons it stayed there pretty often. I think it was. I think it was trying to be more of like a Game of Thrones show. Yeah. But definitely the first 3 seasons to me were probably my favorite. Because I did like how they were lighthearted. I liked that they were serious. I could put it on if I fell asleep and I missed some of it. Not because I was bored or anything. It was fine because I kind of knew what was going on. And if I woke up and I'm like, oh, they're right, they killed the thing. Or I would just watch it. And then it was just lighthearted. And it was like, I need those shows in between shows. I need those shows in between like shows like Ozark or
Yellowstone.
Last
Kingdom,
Last King. I love Last Kingdom.
I guess that's a great way to put it. Like where there's some shows where I need to be intently watching, the way you and I watch shows where like you just said with Merlin, if I did fall asleep, I would try to rewind and rewatch, but I could get up and get a snack. I can kind of listen and hear what's going on. I don't need to
exactly. You can get up, go to the bathroom, come back.
And I got to say, some of the comedy and humor in it, there's times it's just straight up silly and ridiculous. And we'll reference those in a little bit. And it would make, there's a good reference. Okay, let's just spoil that now for everybody. There is a significant amount of farting.
Fart jokes.
At times.
Farting.
At times.
And it's hilarious because it's like all these proper British royalty people. And there's farts.
Certain characters come in and it's just disgusting, and it's like, am I really watching this right now? it's so funny. I like the show overall. We'll get into how it ended and how I felt about the ending, I think maybe later.
Yeah, I think it's a little spoilery if we say it.
So
what are some things you didn't like though? What are some things you didn't like about the show?
The ending. I guess we could say that.
We could say I didn't like the ending either. It was I won't say why, but it was at least I feel like it didn't hit the promises it was saying the whole time.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
I certainly wasn't satisfied.
No.
Sometimes we'll talk about this in a second. Some of the characters can absolutely frustrate the heck out of you. Steve and I are huge on moments of camaraderie in shows, and there's certainly a lot of that in Merlin. But then there's also moments where you're like, why isn't this going to be a moment of camaraderie? Why is this character still treating this character this way? after all they've been through.
We just had a great bro moment, and then
you're still going to be an asshole to them. Like, it's just sometimes I was kind of like, okay, I know that's the theme in the show, but like they've been through 5 seasons together. And also, some things happened in like the last couple episodes of the show that I wish were drawn out more. Yeah. Those are the things I didn't like. We mentioned a couple of the things about the bad CGI at times and some of the corny humor at times. But, you know, those kind of are the show.
I like the corny humor. I don't know. I did. Yeah, I would say for me, when the show started taking itself too seriously, it kind of lost me a little bit. Maybe just because of what was going on in my personal life at the time. And I was like, this is too serious for me. But I'd say the last 2 seasons to me were just, they weren't really hitting it the same way that the first 3 were. They were just darker, more serious. There wasn't as many of the funny moments. Yeah, I would say that was pretty much it. I mean, otherwise, I like the show.
What I like too is that it's a different spin on King Arthur, where in most of the other novels and stories you hear, Merlin is usually an older character with wisdom.
Yeah,
as an old man. In some stories, close to death, who takes Arthur under his wing, teaches him sort of the druid, some of the druid ways. So Arthur, you know, has sort of more of a diverse aspect politically in the books and stories too.
Yeah.
As you come to find, in this, they're like the same age.
Yeah.
And it's kind of an interesting take where it's like, how could someone the same age be mentoring Arthur? And they do it in their own way.
Yeah, he's more of a moral compass, I would say.
Yes, moral compass, and, you know, he does a lot.
And I would say, I just agree with you, too. I mean, it was just, the bro moments were great, and there was times where there'd be a bro moment that, you know, would happen between another character that was more significant than someone the said character did for someone he'd been with for 5 seasons.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're gonna have to talk about that. We're gonna jump right into that, I think, when we're getting to the spoilers section. One of the other things I really liked was just the setting. You know, it was just so medieval and cool and awesome. And I found out they even used they were on a real castle.
They were,
and you actually went there. You went.
I did. I did. I was in Paris about a month ago. Now we're recording this, and I went to Château des Pierrefonds, which is a little bit northeast of Paris, about an hour and a half, I think. So it's a little bit off the beaten path if any of you are in France and want to go there, but it's totally worth the trip to take the train to Compiègne and get a taxi or an Uber. It'll take you over to the castle.
Well, you were kind of lucky getting an Uber back, though, didn't you?
I was. I had a fantastic driver who drove me. It's about half an hour from the train station to get to this small town of Pierrefonds, a cool small European town. You know, if the cars weren't on the road, you'd think you walk back in time. Really, really fantastic. And, you know, towering over the town, wherever you are, there's this huge castle on this hill. And that's Château des Pierrefonds. It's a 12th century castle. You know, we'll talk about the history of the castle here in this video that I'm going to show you now of my trip there. You know, check out this video and you can see the inner workings of it. And if you've seen Merlin, you'll definitely recognize a lot of these locations. Hey guys, Colby from the Screen Chronicles here at Château des Pierrefonds in France, northeast of Paris. So I'm here. This is where they filmed the show Merlin, amongst other works. I'm going to go in and explore. I'm going to show you guys. So let's go on in. So as I take my first few steps in, you actually may be able to recognize the outside of the castle here from some of the great dueling scenes from Merlin that they filmed right on the front lawn here. One of my favorite aspects of the show Merlin are the great duels they had. And as I continue through the front gate, I'll give you a little history of the castle itself. So in the 12th century, there was originally a castle built here, but it wasn't until the late 1300s that King Charles VI made this area of France a royal territory, and he gave it to his brother, the Duke Louis I of Orleans. Duke Louis was actually battling Duke of Burgundy for royal power in this area and had this fortress built. which confirmed his power, and he was able to take control of trade in the area. In 1617, however, the castle was ordered to be dismantled by King Louis XIII so that it did not become refuge to his enemies. So the towers were ripped open, and it wasn't until 1810 that Napoleon Bonaparte actually bought this, and the ruins were sort of a tourist attraction in the 1800s. You can see this image from Merlin, I think probably after a dragon attack, and these are some images of the ruins. But in 1857, Emperor Napoleon III ordered the restoration to become an imperial residence. It was Eugene Viollet-le-Duc who was entrusted with the castle's restoration, and he employed architectural concepts to recreate a perfect castle as it would have appeared in the Middle Ages. And I am now standing in the courtyard here at Château de Pierrefonds, where many of the great Merlin scenes were filmed, and I'll show you a few pictures around here. This is a statue of Louis I of Orléans. It's not hard to imagine why they chose this location to be Camelot in Merlin. It really is a beautiful castle. And you may recognize this courtyard from even back to the first episode when Nimue confronts Uther, or in this scene when they attempted to burn Merlin at the stake. This courtyard is really used all the time in the show Merlin. This castle also features a lot of different kind of sculptures, like this quadrupedal pelican and this eagle, and this snake with legs, or some sort of basilisk, and a flying boar. These gargoyles were a representation of the Duke as a salamander. Of course, one of my favorites, the griffin, for obvious reasons. And this elephant bird thing. And you may recognize the staircase from the show Merlin. It was featured a lot, and there's a better picture of that recognizable statue as well. So where I am now is actually where Arthur and Guinevere had their throne set up in the show Merlin. This hall is actually one of the biggest halls in France. I'm going to show you the whole thing here. So what became Camelot's throne room is actually the Worthies room, and these statues you see at the end are the 9 Worthies, all prominent female figures. This audio tour also featured a lot about the architectural design in terms of its defensive capability. So I'm in part of the ramparts of the castle here, where you can see several places that archers could shoot out, or they could throw projectiles off the castle walls. I'm sure you could picture Uther sentencing some people from this balcony. These are some images of the chapel, which was recreated by the great Viollet-le-Duc. So next we have the cellars, and in the cellars we have an exhibition of casts that were commissioned by King Louis Philippe, and it pays tribute to the great figures that brought glory to France. It was originally at the Palace of Versailles. It's now kept at Pierrefonds. This is the master bedroom, and it was one of my favorite rooms on the whole tour of the castle because it has this lifespan depicted at the top of a 14th century knight starting at childhood, learning to ride a horse, saving people in distress, fighting medieval monsters. In this case, I think a griffin. Furthermore, learning to joust and jousting. In the later stages, you see acts of nobility and eventually becoming a lord of a territory and having different sort of chivalrous moments in the lifespan of a knight. It was pretty cool. And I would be remiss if I did not show you the royal toilet. There's some images that you can see from the town, and I just wanted to kind of compare that to the CGI that they did in Merlin to make Camelot. It's pretty cool. And that's it for Chateau de Pierrefonds. I hope you enjoyed this little tour and hope you get to visit it someday. This castle was Camelot. This was the primary location all 5 seasons of Camelot. It was really cool to see in real life.
Some of it even looked kind of cooler than what we saw in the show. Like there was some other statues and stuff.
They have some really cool stuff
I didn't see in the show. But it was cool. It's like a real castle they just filmed in.
This castle specifically was, they talk a lot. I did the audio tour about its military and its defense design. That's what I think I love about castles, and all castles are designed for defense. But this one, I went to a couple castles in France. This one really talked about, what the structure was in defending and how, some army might charge against this wall, and they had different slots for the archers. And it was definitely really cool to hear about the way they designed the defense tactics for the castle.
Very cool. Very cool. So if you're listening, make sure you watch on the YouTube if you want to see some of those things in Colby's adventure. Let's get a score going here then.
Yes.
Before we get into some spoiler territory. I'm gonna give an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
I feel like that's a basic score that I give a lot of time, but I honestly probably would have went higher. If you would have asked me after the first 2 or 3 seasons, I probably would have went 9. To be honest. Just because it really hit the spot for me. But honestly, the last 2 seasons brought it down. Ending brought it down. But generally, I liked most of the show. So I'm going 8.
Yeah. I'm going to go, fair score. I'm going to go 7.5, a little bit lower. Just the justification for that is, 7.5 is a very respectable score. I don't need to fucking tell you why I gave that number. No, but the reason why I gave that number is it did lack a sort of serious nature that might, really drive me to be into the show and dive into it more. And some of like the recurring, like how characters are like ignorant things, like just recurring over and over and over again is kind of silly to me. It's like, well, you can kind of tell like this show just does not have a serious tone because of that,
Yeah.
So those are the reasons, but there's a couple negative things, but overall, like I really enjoyed the show. It really,
you recommend the show?
It scratched the itch. I do. It scratched the itch of like the medieval genre I was looking for. It had battle. Well, it had some battles. It had a lot of duels.
Yeah.
And it had a lot of cool King Arthur mysticism, a lot of stories too, that like were told in a different way, or maybe some even stories I didn't even really know about were told in this, which was cool.
Yeah, it was. So spoiler alert, people, those are spoiler free thoughts. We're going to talk about anything we want to about the show now. It's not going to be so much a recap as we do with some other episodes. We're just going to be kind of going through characters and talking about some more things we just talked about because there's 5 seasons. And that's what we're going to do. So, yeah.
If you don't like that, then...
So let me just start out with, should we jump to the ending?
Let's talk about the ending. Because what's a better place to start than the end, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So let me tell you why the ending for me was so frustrating, because some people are like, oh, well, so what happens is Arthur just fucking dies and...
and you know what? Right before that, he found out
for the first
time who Merlin really is.
Yes, and they kind of come to terms with it, but
it's
so rushed.
Dumbass.
He's a dumbass
and is so oblivious. It's amazing sometimes. I swear to God, like if you watch the show, there's times where like they're in a fight and Arthur's fighting on this side of the field, and Merlin does some crazy magic over here, and it's just like, did he really not notice that? Like, I'm just thinking to myself, it's like
Arthur usually would get knocked unconscious.
I know,
right before,
usually get knocked
and then he would wake back up, and Merlin would be like, "You did it." And he'd be like,
I know, it's hilarious.
You're right.
I did it.
But yeah,
it always happens.
There's definitely a lot of moments like that. But anyway, though, I wanted him to know, and I wanted him to be equal.
Right.
And the thing is, the show set it up that's what was going to happen. The show said that's what the ending would be.
The dragon
said the prophecy is this. This is your destiny to be with him. You're his protector. He's going to be the one that unites the ways of the old magic, the old ways, the old gods in the new world to bring it together. And then people who use magic will be able to live in peace. The kingdom will be great, and it'll be under King Arthur. That's what the show said from the very beginning, because the whole time you're thinking, is that really going to happen? Because Uther's a dick, his dad, and then Arthur picks up on a lot of that stuff. So the whole time you're thinking,
and what you mean by a dick is that he's a good ruler. Don't get us wrong. He has a very prosperous kingdom, but he is basically Hitler to magical beings. Yes. He has this hatred for magical beings. He wants them like executed. And we find out as the show goes on more details of why. But those are the things that sort of trickle into Arthur.
So I mean, that's the setup is though that it will get better, and it'll be Arthur who does it. Merlin will be at his side when that happens, and he'll be a great sorcerer. He'll be accepted. Those are the things. Those are the things that were said so many times throughout the show. And
it's a beautiful ending to me, even if it's predictable.
Yeah, exactly. If that were to happen, it would still, if they executed right, I would still just love watching it, because they did. It was 5 seasons of that not happening, just a constant tease. So I wanted it. Give it to me. I don't care if I know it's coming. You set it up and it's been good. But instead, they try and do a Ryan Johnson on us before Ryan Johnson.
Yeah, they did.
Before we even were Ryan Johnson. I've already been Ryan Johnson when I saw this, but this is before Ryan Johnson does.
So if you remember our Outlander talks with the timelines, we saw episode 8 and we got Ryan Johnson, but we were already Ryan Johnson back in 2000. No, I'm just kidding. That had already occurred, but we didn't watch that until 2021.
2021.
So makes sense now.
Everyone's caught up. Caught up. But so that doesn't happen. What ends up happening is Arthur dies. He finds out Merlin is magic, but the whole him coming to terms with it is rushed, and he dies. So he doesn't get to lead the kingdom. The show ends after he dies, so you don't see him, and you don't see magical people being accepted. You don't see Merlin. You don't see Merlin publicly accepted as a magician, an advisor, a lord, anything.
And explain to me how that could happen if Arthur's not the one to bring the change.
Exactly. And it ends with Guinevere on the throne, which it's not bad, but it's like, why? And then Arthur's dead, and then it just jumps to the future where old Merlin is walking on a road, and they set it up as like this. Look how long it's been that hasn't returned yet, and there's cars. There's a freaking truck that drives by, and you see where Arthur's tomb is. Old Merlin kind of just
still
looks
watching
at
over it.
Yeah, and he's called the once and future king because he's supposed to return again when England needs him. So it's like, well, it sucks.
Merlin's just waiting. And okay, I'm looking at it. I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I'm looking at it from maybe a different point of view, where maybe for like kids, they were trying to keep the magic alive by trying to make it seem like, oh, this could have really happened, and maybe there is a King Arthur waiting to come back or something. You know what I mean by that? Like maybe that's why they did the show that way, is to kind of make it seem like flesh it into how the world is today, where like we don't have magical beings. Do you know what I mean? Maybe that's a reason why, where it's like, I don't know,
And so I would have been fine with that too. If they wanted to kill off Arthur and have him go to sleep until he's needed again, I think that would have been a cool ending. But I wanted to see everything I just said before that. I think they should have, if they were planning on, again, I don't know if the season was getting canceled and they were just like, let's rush things.
Could be that too.
I think that might have been what happened. So they're like, let's just do it all. But again, if they had known during season 5 before they started, I think what they should have done though is start out earlier on and had Merlin accepted.
I think so too. I think maybe at least halfway in the season, if not before that.
Yeah. And then the second half, that's when more problems arise, even though the kingdom's magical now. And then you could have Arthur die. And then it's even more tragic because now he has been a great accepting ruler.
Right.
And he has been practicing the things that you say he can do.
Exactly.
Because everyone keeps saying he can do these things, but he hasn't done it. He hasn't.
And then you see him spread that through the kingdom. You see him spread acceptance and bringing these two sides together, integrating these magical beings and showing how they can be one, and work together. But I'm totally fine too with Arthur's reaction to Merlin being magic, how he immediately goes away from him. I've been always taught my whole life to not like magical beings, and I find out you're one, and you've been lying to me.
And it was his best friend.
His best friend. But that should have been fleshed out, in my opinion, over an episode or over 2 episodes early in the season. And then you can show a gradual acceptance from Arthur, because that is a lot. That's a huge pill to swallow. Oh my God, my best friend is the one thing my father has always taught me to hate.
Yeah. And he's been hiding it from me.
And all of my successes, I'm now realizing, are coming not because of me, but because of magic. And it would take Arthur time and to process this and realize well, he's actually saved the kingdom, time and time again.
Mm.
And then you see his acceptance. I don't know. To me, that would have been a much more natural way of their relationship ending, and then he can die if you want to do it that way. But he's already had that moment, with Merlin, in a more realistic way, in my opinion.
It seemed like they had the right idea for how they did it. It was just very rushed. I don't know if they would have done it differently if they had more time or what. And because so many other things I thought were just executed so well.
Yeah, totally.
Like the sword that he got from Merlin, that was just freaking amazing. The first time they have the Knights of the Round Table again. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but that was done, I thought, pretty freaking well.
Yeah, me too.
So I mean, to me, just the ending by itself, the fact that it was ambiguous wasn't disappointing. Is the fact that the show sold you on repeatedly telling you Arthur's going to be the king that unites everyone. Mm-hmm. We're going to see it. I'm going to be accepted. I'll be the advisor. He'll see then. He'll appreciate me.
Yeah, but a lot changes, I guess, too, since season 1, when they have the script written out, and then.
Yeah, I think that should have been a priority, though. I think it should have been a priority for them to do, is to write it to do that, because that's what they were selling. That's what they were saying. So would you want more of the show if the show was to be?
I'd certainly watch more.
I guess, would it be rebooted? I don't want them to redo it. I want them to just sort of pick it up and be like, he wakes up maybe or something. Not when? I wouldn't want
in 2022.
I wouldn't want present day. I wouldn't want present day.
I know. I don't know if I want present day, but
I would kind of want them to retcon that, and maybe maybe they could even end with that ending again, but then have him come back and actually we could see those things, and then maybe have him die again, and then be like, all right, well, this is still the ending that we showed you before. It's just at a different point now, or we just showed you it early. I don't know.
Right.
But that's something I thought when I first saw it. I thought this would be nice if they could flesh it out or add more to it.
Yeah, it would be nice. And you're right. Maybe there was something to it where it just the timing, or they thought they were going to be able to flesh things out, and then they got cut, or maybe it was just a creative decision they made. I'm not sure.
Because to me, they wasted way too much time on evil Guinevere in the last season.
They wasted a lot of time on evil Guinevere.
Wasted so much time. It was like we already had her go through the arc of disliking Arthur and them coming together. We don't need this again. We've already seen it.
I know.
Let's have some Arthur and Merlin stuff. And
totally.
So let's back it up then. Let's talk about the other sort of issue we have. Arthur and Merlin, who have a lot of great bro moments, he's also just never appreciated. And there's so many anti-bro moments. It goes from like, hey man, I really appreciated you saving me back there, or standing up for me, or being there for me. You came with me on this quest, even though you're not a knight and you don't have a sword or anything. I respect you. You're the bravest person I know. And you're like, God damn, Arthur, thank you. And then he's like, wash my chainmail, servant.
I know. And that goes into like the later seasons too. It's like you'd think at some point
it doesn't change.
He would have some appreciation. Now, I will say this though. There's many instances in the show where Merlin needs to cover up his magic by acting like an idiot.
Yeah. He
needs to like be like, oh, I was, he's maybe looking for something in Arthur's room that's magic related, or and that I guess from Arthur's point of view would be like, he's so stupid. maybe that.
Yeah. He's kind of an airhead,
Yeah. So maybe that's part of it too, but there's also just so many times where it's just like, man, you guys just went on this crazy adventure together. And even though you might not know Merlin did all the work, like, he helped, and like he was right by your side.
Yeah.
He was there with you. And there might be a lot of times there's like a slight moment of like gratitude, but then usually at the end of the day, it's just like, go wash my clothes. Go.
Throws a boot at him. He throws a boot at him.
I know.
It's like I've been like season 4 still watching a boot at him get thrown at him, and I'm just like, because my brothers had already watched this at this point, and I'm just like what is he doing? Like, why is he like, I want to, like, why is Arthur like this? So back to a moment that I was saying before that I loved, but also kind of like, what the hell, was the round table, which was awesome. I think it was the end of season 3. I think it was the finale of season 3. They're on the run from the kingdom. All of a sudden, Percival, Lancelot show up.
Wayne.
Yeah. And then who is Guinevere's brother?
Oh, what's his name? Elian? Is that it?
Yeah, Elian. Yeah, you're right. Elian. Not a knight I'm familiar with, but
was Leon there too? I can't remember.
You're right. Leon was there too. But anyway, though, like, Percival showed up for the first time ever. That's the first time they had ever met him.
Right. Yeah.
And then Arthur knights him, brings him at the table, and like says, like, I am so grateful you're here. You're amazing. You're all amazing people. You're all knights now. You're all my equal. That's why we're at this round table, because we're all freaking equals. Merlin, stand up, you idiot. You're coming with me on this mission. And I'm just like, what the hell? Like, at the very least, you're not going to even knight Merlin. You're not going to give him like an honorary knight or anything. Like, you just met Percival. Like, his only qualification is he's got big freaking arms, and that's it.
I know.
And like, that's the only thing you know about him. He fought some guys. Merlin has already done that. You've seen Merlin fight guys. Merlin's like a decent fighter, like, in front of him. He's not at the level of Percival or anything, but I mean, he's done more for you.
And I know it's frustrating. Even if you don't need to make him a knight, why do you have to still treat him like crap, though?
Yeah, it wasn't complete crap, but there was definitely this sort of. It wasn't entirely playful. It's still a jab. He's like, Merlin, you got to stand up. Like, you're coming with me because you're my servant. So that's what you have to do.
Yeah, he's like, you don't have a choice.
Yeah, and
even though he would be there no matter what.
It was
it's just
kind
frustrating.
of playful, but it was still like, why are you not treating this man like an equal?
Yeah,
Guinevere, who was a servant, he's fine marrying her, making her a queen.
No,
but then
I know
Merlin, fetch my bedpan.
Oh my god.
Like, jeez, oh man, my chamber pot.
And I don't dislike Arthur. And I know a lot of those moments are built into, like, for comedy or for.
And
a huge premise of the show is that it takes so much strength for Merlin to stay under wraps of who he is and act like this idiot servant a lot,
and not get the gratitude he deserves,
so that he can be close to Arthur. And we see at times throughout the show, it's extremely frustrating for Merlin.
It shows how much of a good person he genuinely is, because he's not looking for
glory.
for glory or anything. He's just doing it because it's right, and he's trying to help out someone he cares about.
And because it's destiny.
And destiny.
And because this is destiny. I mean,
destiny
he's
is
told.
all, Colby.
And there's times he's just like, why does this have to be my destiny? Like, I could go, and I think he's tempted at one point in the show. Like,
yeah.
Like, I honestly, if I wanted, I could just smite you all. Like, because not only, by the way, is Merlin a wizard amongst all these humans in Camelot, he is Emrys. He is a legendary wizard, arguably the most powerful wizard of his time.
He was born with magic. He makes sure he says that. He was born with it. He didn't learn it. He's born with it.
Born with it, baby.
He's just born with it.
Which is kind of cool. So he's got two names in the show.
Mm-hmm.
All of the druids and other magical beings, they seem to know who he really is.
Mm-hmm.
He is Emrys. And it creates a lot of cool scenarios in the show where Morgan Le Fay, who becomes the main bad guy through the last few seasons, she has a good arc we'll talk about in a second, but where she is afraid of Emrys. And she doesn't realize Merlin's Emrys. So whenever Merlin's around, she's just like, oh, you're a nuisance,
mm-hmm.
for a while. But Merlin, like, it's kind of cool because Merlin will change his appearance at times to disguise himself. And then we get the old guy Merlin.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. And he's so much more rude, and because he doesn't have to hide that he's magic.
Yeah.
He's just so sassy and mean, and it's great. But that's who, like, she thinks Emrys is,
Mm-hmm.
And it just creates a lot of cool dynamics where
old Merlin becomes a regular, I would say, in season 4 or 5 or both. We see it once at one point. He does like an aging spell to do it, and I think it was the witch hunt one, where Tywin Lannister was there, and,
which was cool to have him there.
And then I think they were just like, this is actually a lot of fun, and then it's also kind of, we get to actually use magical Merlin now, without him being recognized. So like,
and you know why I think that too is because the very first time he did it, Gaius, who we'll talk about Gaius in a second too, Gaius was like, this is like, changing your age has all these consequences, and it's extremely difficult magic to master. You don't know how it's going to turn out. And then the next season, he's just doing it every other day. He's just like,
great how sassy he is, and he can be sassy with Merlin. And then one of my favorite moments, if not my favorite moment from the show, is when he is old Merlin at the end battle between Arthur's army and Mordred's army, and he's just smiting dudes with lightning bolts from the hill. I was like, oh my god, that was some payoff. That was some payoff.
That was wonderful payoff. Wonderful payoff.
Just seeing his full power, he just decimated. I mean, Arthur was nothing compared to him. And what he could do, and that was just awesome to see.
That was awesome.
Let's talk about Gaius here now. So
Gaius is
we
the
first
OG
get introduced to him.
bro.
Yeah, he's the court's physician. Those are
the court's physician was his title. Yes.
And he also
has his EMT and
he's just everything. He's like the magical researcher, the
physical therapist,
the physical therapist. He just does like water research and topography and all sorts of things. He's just a general science guy. But he
was
out as
Google before.
He was Google. He takes Merlin in because he sees he has magic, and if his mom knows him somehow. And so he's becomes like his master then in the court, and that's sort of how Merlin becomes introduced to Camelot then and everyone else. But he starts out as that, and he really just turns into like a father figure and a bro, and I just love him.
Totally. I would say in the beginning he's got some times where he's a little annoying because he's just sometimes because he's like trying to talk Merlin out of a bunch of stuff, and he's just going against what Merlin wants sometimes. But then like he very soon becomes his like sort of father figure, and he's always like looking down on his adventures and stuff. Like, you need to be more careful, but he also understands that Merlin needs to do this stuff.
Mhm.
And it's nice that Merlin has somebody that he can be have an outlet.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to hide who he is with Gaius. And Gaius, we learn, had this past, right, where he
was a magician.
He was a magician, and he suppressed his powers to stay in the good graces of the court. And I mean, Uther Pendragon knows that he was a magician. He knows his past, and he knows that he's renounced it.
And that's one thing too. I remember, and I could be wrong, maybe I missed something, but I do remember the audience found out that Gaius was magical, and because he has to use it to beat this other villain, the villain of the week. But Merlin never sees him use his magic. I thought it was still hidden from Merlin, but eventually they end up just talking about it. Like Merlin did find out. So I don't know if I missed something, or do you remember? Was there a moment where he's like, I'm magic Merlin? Because Merlin always thought he was the only one. And then it was so big that Gaius every now and then would like use his magic to heal Merlin if he was unconscious, or if someone stepped out of the room, he'd use a little magic for something. And I was like, oh, damn, like if he ever tells Merlin, maybe there'll be this dynamic between them where they're mad at each other for a bit because he wasn't telling him that he could. And
was it Gaius who gave Merlin the book?
Yeah, he gave him the book,
right?
I think like first day.
Yeah. What was the moment that Gaius realized? Wasn't it like when water spilled or something, and like Merlin...
Gaius was falling off of a like a bookshelf or something when Merlin first went in, and then Merlin moved the couch or the bed to catch him with the force.
Yes.
And then Gaius was like, "You're magic," and he's like, "No, I'm not." And he's like, "Well, the bed just moved. It was over there. I know the setup of my house."
Yeah.
And then like that's as soon as he found out. But I don't remember Merlin ever finding out when Gaius did. It just they just eventually just like, oh yeah, I'm magic, and they just go with it. But I mean, they're a great dynamic, and when
it's fantastic.
Season 1, at the end of it, when I thought Gaius was going to die, I really thought he was, and I was pretty mad. Me too. I was before anything even happened, and I thought Gaius was going to die. I was already planning on stopping the show. I was already like, I'm gonna stop watching. I'm not gonna watch it anymore. I was like already a sore loser. I was like, I'm done.
I know.
I'm done. I'm boycotting.
Totally
I'm boycotting a show that's already done. That's already aired.
I know. I was so frustrated.
But he didn't.
Gaius was fantastic. He was always there for Merlin. He got into trouble sometimes too. There's a time where he was taken over by a goblin or something.
This is one of my favorite episodes.
And he's so rude and disgusting. And we love this episode because Gaius was it a goblin or
Yeah, it was a goblin. And when the episode first started, I was like, this is going to be an annoying episode, this goblin that they can't catch, but then when it possessed Gaius, and then Gaius was just going around being the worst physician ever, and then he's just charging everyone for just terrible services. And
these services are hilarious. And one of them, and I've used this in my job and as a physical therapist many times. He's holding a guy's arms up in the air, and he's like, "Now say ooh ooh ah ah," and the guy's like, "Ooh ooh ah ah," and he like puts his arm down. He's like, "You're definitely gonna die."
I'll give you a day to live or something like that.
And the other one I love is that was it? Didn't he also give something
Uther's head?
Uther lost his hair.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, let me help." And he's just like smacking the back of his bald head. It's like, just like,
he had to be smacking his head too.
I know.
He had to be smacking the actor's head.
It's like, that's a great suboccipital release technique.
That's and he said too. He's like, "This is help with the circulation, bring the blood flow." Yeah. And I was like, it makes sense.
So we got a kick out of that.
Another funny moment is when we talk about the fart humor, is when he gave everyone in there like medicine that would make them would make them fart. And so then like Guinevere is farting, and Morgana is farting, and everyone's just farting. Uther, and they're just like,
and they're just like awkwardly like, okay, we're just gonna ignore this.
It's just like okay. While we're talking about some of the other magical people, let's talk about Morgana. And how she changed and kind of who she was.
So she starts off as Morgana, the king's ward. She basically lives in the castle, And all we know really is that Gaius is treating her dreams. He gives her a potion so she can sleep because she has these crazy dreams. But she seems like a nice person. She seems like a really respectable character.
She's pretty plain, I would say.
Yeah, plain.
She helps out on adventures every now and then.
Yeah. But overall, I don't dislike her.
Yeah.
At these points.
No. And then she had this sort of backstory where her dad was killed because of how Uther was running the kingdom and the army and stuff. So there's sort of a dynamic between them because Uther kind of saw her as a daughter, but
and like he had to like honor like the debt or something, or no, he had to honor her dad by taking care of her. That's what he always told her. And if you know anything about King Arthur lore, you know that Morgan Le Fay is traditionally King Arthur's half sister. Magical half sister. So you're thinking while you're watching the show is like, oh, okay, so maybe she is just they just wanted to get Morgan Le Fay in here. She's actually just the king's ward. They're just doing a different twist on it.
Yeah.
But no, you come to find out, and she finds out too, and she's like in a coma. But she can hear Uther Pendragon thinks she's gonna die.
Yeah.
So he like just says it to her, like, I'm your father.
And it was like when she was trying to kill him. Too.
Yeah, so she had already started turning bad at this point. She is discovering that she has magical powers. And she's realizing all the horrible things that Uther Pendragon has done to her people. And so she a certain resentment builds up in her. Not immediately. I feel like it does grow. She meets Morgause. Morgause is this magical creature magical woman who
she was trying to beat Arthur.
Yeah.
There was like first Arthur. A duel. She challenged Arthur, and then she was trying to split up the kingdom. She revealed the truth about how Arthur was born, which was actually through magic.
Right.
But then he goes back and he does actually attack Uther, but then they just lie, and then they're like, oh, okay, fine. That's not how it happened. So that just bites that in the butt. But actually, it is true. But I don't know. They never get back to it again.
No, they don't.
Which is kind of odd.
Uther will hate magic, but if it's like helps him give him a son, or I think he was in love with Morgana's mom, so he was magic. One time he needed to save Arthur. No, was it Arthur?
Yeah, it was.
Not Morgana. Okay. He was like, okay, it might have been Morgana.
Morgana. You're right.
It was Morgana. Right. He was like, we'll use magic in this time. Just don't tell anybody. Which makes him a hypocrite,
Yeah, he'll burn you at the stake. But then when someone he wants, he's like, all right, use whoever you need.
Yeah, do whatever you need to do.
Yeah. But if someone is just magic, like washing their yard, they're washing their yard. Washing. I went from watering their yard.
It rain. Oh God.
The grass is so dirty.
She's just scrubbing the grass.
It's a British thing. We don't do it here in America.
We don't wash our yards here. It's disgusting. It's just dirt all over the place.
We just let it go. So he'll just do that over something simple because like Guinevere's dad just had gold and it was made through magic. And he was like, yeah, we've got to kill him because the gold was made, like that's all that happened. Like he wasn't doing anything. I mean,
so frustrating.
Maybe throw off the economy, son? Maybe. But I mean, like that's pretty severe there. Yeah.
So Morgan Le Fay, so she's Morgana. She basically becomes Morgan Le Fay. Morgause sort of infiltrates her, and they create this alliance, and that's when Morgana starts becoming like more and more evil. Merlin is having these dreams, and these visions about Morgana like killing Uther, and he's like trying to figure out how can he stop that? How can he stop this from happening? So it's this weird dynamic where Merlin knows Morgana's evil, but like nobody else does. And nobody would believe him if he said that, So he is like single-handedly like trying to defend Uther and Arthur, from Morgana.
Yeah. That's another thing too. They kind of just redo for the last season. It's Arthur's uncle who becomes the person on the inside that no one will believe is the one who's evil, even though Merlin knows. Right. And he works for Morgana. And I was like, oh, so we're just doing it again? Because when it was
Right.
first happening with Morgana, I was like, this is actually kind of clever. How they did.
Yeah.
But then they're just like, let's just do it again.
Right.
Let's just do it again with someone else though now. And like the first time I saw Arthur's uncle, I was like, that guy's a bad guy. Look at
Oh,
look
yeah.
at him. Look at him. Look how like posh he looks, and he's got like dark hair, you know.
Oh, totally.
And just like, come on. And I would say that with the Morgana thing, she went from being someone I wasn't really interested in at all to then when we got more of her backstory with her dad,
Yeah.
and the fact that she was magic and that Uther was someone who just like would just kill magical people.
Yeah.
And she was trying to debate whether she wanted to kill him or not. And
Yeah, and she was also mad that he lied to her whole life.
yeah, it was pretty. That was pretty. I understood her motives then, and I was like, you know, I can see where she's coming from.
And also, like from her side, like this is freaking Hitler.
Yeah, exactly.
He kills
then-
any magical beings he finds.
Yeah, but then eventually she becomes even worse than Uther was because
Yes.
she just like kills anyone. She tortures people. She's even like killing magical people now to do what she wants to do. So it's like
There were
you're
times like
you're just a hypocrite. Like you're way worse than him ever.
there were times I think where I was thinking it, and then Merlin was also thinking it in the show. Is like, well, so what if she kills Uther?
Mhm.
Because Merlin's like, Uther's just he would kill my mom if he found her. You know, like
Yeah.
Why should I stop her from doing that? Because then Arthur could take the throne. I think everybody thinks Arthur is definitely more likely to accept magical beings. Like he's not
Mhm.
going to do it automatically, but he's definitely more open minded than his father about
Yeah.
that. And there's
That
been
would-
times where he's shown like more mercy toward them.
And they'll be like, Dad, I don't know if we should be doing this. And they'll be
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah, we need to.
Like, are they really bothering us, Dad? Like,
Yeah.
Kind of things like that.
Yeah. He would stand up for people like that before. So you were just like, oh, that guy
Kinda
is going to be a good guy. Yeah.
That turns though.
What happened was Uther was poisoned by Morgana. She used some sort of spell that
Yes.
if someone used a healing spell on him, it would do the reverse and it would kill
Right.
him.
Great spell.
Yeah. And
By the
then
way,
Merlin.
we're going to link the recipe to that here in the description below.
description below. If you
This is a
really need
spell.
this for an enemy here, just a nice
Yeah.
little reverse.
It's almost foolproof.
It's
So-
pretty foolproof. And I was surprised that they actually killed Uther off here too.
Me too.
I was like, holy crap. But Merlin sees this as an opportunity to use magic, save his dad, and then help Arthur become someone who's interested in magic, wants to help magic and protect magic. And this is like one of those moments, like there's so many of these moments that are great because they're so heart-wrenching, because Merlin actually sends Arthur further away from magic, and then Arthur will like thank him for it. And then like you can just see but like what happens is he becomes old Merlin to disguise himself, and because Arthur knew him as the magical guy who was at the witch trial thing, so he would be someone recognizable. And then he goes there, he does the healing spell. Uther dies, so now Arthur hates magic again. So it just kind of backfires, blows up in his face. And there's a few other times, you know, I forget when, but like when Merlin is, you know, where he does something where either one, he's trying to make it seem like he's against this magical person who might be bad, and then says it's because they're magic, and then it reinforces Arthur's belief that magic is bad. And he's like, thanks, Merlin. Thanks for teaching me magic is the worst. Man, you were always right. Now I'm gonna always and you're just like
it sucks.
And let me just say too, Merlin, the actor who plays him, Colin Morgan, I think he freaking kills it.
Yeah, he does.
I think I told you when I first saw this episode, I was like, man, this episode it was that episode that made me say like, you need to watch Merlin. You need to watch Merlin.
I know.
It was like when we were watching Outlander, and it was the Battle of Preston Pans, and I was like, you need to watch.
Yes.
You need to watch Outlander. It was this scene where it was hands down, I would say, if not my favorite episode, my favorite scene. It's something. It's my favorite something. Is when Merlin's dad, who's a dragon whisperer. I forget what they call them, dragon riders or talkers or something. But he goes to him because the main dragon is let loose and he becomes a dick. which was also awesome.
Yeah.
And then but his dad dies, and then he's crying, and he's trying not to show that his dad was magic, and then he was related to his dad, and he's just like sobbing, and then he has to turn around and just look normal to Arthur, and then like that was just a great freaking scene, and just so many awesome things that went into it, and props to that. The actor who plays Merlin would just kill it anytime those scenes where Arthur's just like, thank you Merlin for teaching me magic is bad. That was a good lesson I learned, and now I'm never going to trust a magician. And you could just see Merlin after he looks away just die inside.
Just die. Yeah.
I mean,
it's Colin Morgan was
not
fantastic.
the same as like hiding your sexuality. I mean, it's kind of is sort of representation for that.
It's who he is. That's who he is deep inside.
Yeah. And it's like having your best friend and he's just like, oh, I don't like homosexuals now, or something like that.
Thanks to you, and you're
and it turns
someone
out
who was hoping to come out to him at some point.
Yeah. It's like, oh my God, there's so many times like that.
Totally.
Kills it. And those were like the best and the worst moments, because you're just like, oh, I wanted this to be
frustrating.
The moment that would do it.
I wanted more of Merlin's dad too at that time. Like I wanted, like he was just coming around. He was kind of grumpy at first, and I don't know. It was gonna be awesome. And then
season finales were always great, I think.
Yeah, they were.
Especially from 2 on, like that you could tell that's where they put the budget into for the season, because the dragon, and that was one thing too. Let's talk about the dragon now. The dragon, who I thought was just always going to be the go-to, the narrator, but also the person that gives you the information that you would not know otherwise. Merlin was just like, I need to know about the Snagglepuss monster. Let's go down there, and I'll just ask the dragon, and the dragon will be like, I know that if the Snagglepuss monster isn't killed, then Arthur will die, and you will, and it'll be like, oh, well, dragon, and then the dragon would fly away. He'd be like, yeah, you need to be more dragon.
On his chain, because he's in the cage. His chain. And he'd always be like, Merlin would keep coming back, and then he'd always be like, you know what? Like, I'm helping you a lot, but what are you doing for me? What is in it for me? Like, I want to be free.
But I never thought anything more would happen to Dragon. I thought his role, I thought, would always be in the dungeon, giving vague answers to Merlin. Merlin would get frustrated with the vague answer. He would fly away. And that would be what happens every episode until maybe the last episode, where he would either die or be freed. And everything would be perfect.
Especially because the dragon effects at first were pretty bad. It looked pretty bad at first.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't think they'll adventure more into this. And they do. And they do get better.
Yeah.
They do get better.
Like what you were saying, though, when I thought nothing would ever happen until like the last episode of the show. But like season 2, like what you're saying, he's like, where's my stuff here, buddy? What are you doing for me?
And he's like, promise me that you won't destroy Camelot. And the dragon is just like, nah, no, but free me anyway.
The line was so cool when he's like, we've made enough bargains, haven't we?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
And I was like, oh my God,
shit.
He's gonna burn Camelot down. He's gonna just do it.
Yeah.
I was like, that's what he's gonna do. And the next episode literally just starts or just
over here, and over here he goes, flap, and he comes back and he's like,
just smogging it up.
He did. Oh my God, it was crazy.
That was great. That was awesome. I did not see that coming, and I love that they did it. That's when I started to just love the show, because I was like, they're sticking with the fun formula, but now they're just mixing, and they're just like, the dragon's a bad guy right now. The dragon, who you always thought was going to just be Merlin's buddy, is burning down the kingdom. And he was even trying to attack Merlin. I remember the one time where he's like, I'm never going to set you free, dragon. And the dragon just right at him. And he blocks it. I was like, holy shit.
They did a good job of those tensions rising, because Merlin needed more and more help, and the dragon was like more unwilling to give it until you let me out. And it really put Merlin in a tough spot,
That's what I loved. That I loved what they did
Yeah.
with the dragon. I loved it.
It was cool. And then after that, when Merlin goes and meets his daddy, he learns that he's now going to be the Dragon Master.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Merlin subscribes to Dragon on Demand, just like Gandalf had Eagles on Demand.
Dragon on Demand.
Dragon! Do you think it works like insurance companies? Because you always wonder, like, why don't they just start with the Eagles in Lord of the Rings? Or like, why doesn't Merlin just start with the dragon when there's going to be a big battle?
I have no idea.
And like, maybe it's like an insurance thing where, like, you know, you whisper to the butterfly to go get the dragon, and the butterfly comes back and is like, sorry, we just don't cover it, you know, unless it's this much peril.
Yeah. This much
like,
peril. We need this much peril to get involved.
And we'll cover that. And we'll go send them. But
You're
for
about this level peril, we're looking for like this much peril.
We just don't cover that on your plan. If you want to upgrade to the premium plan, we could do that for you, but it's going to cost a lot more. Merlin are just like, just don't have it. Just don't have it right now.
No. I'll take the option with the larger peril.
Yeah. What's the largest like deductible peril? Like.
How much peril will I have to go through?
You would have thought that Merlin would have met his peril deductible by that time anyway. So like
his peril deductible.
That's how these things work when you're Dragon Master or when you have a relationship with giant eagles in Lord of the Rings, by the way, people.
I'm glad we finally know this.
Yeah.
I'm glad there's answers for this now. It's
not covered.
So now
why doesn't Gandalf just send the eagles from the Shire? It's not covered.
Peril deductible.
Not covered. You know how much of a risk that would be for those eagles to fly that distance?
It wouldn't be as much.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be as. They need more risk. They need more.
Oh yeah, even more peril.
It needs to be like crunch time. It needs to be crunch time before they get involved. Like,
we'll cover that.
What lesson would you learn if we just got involved right at the beginning?
Just picturing whenever Gandalf whispers to the butterfly, and the butterfly just shows up on some guy's desk. He's just on a computer, and he's like, let me check that real quick. Let me run those. Yeah, I think we could give like 4 eagles for that. Should we send them out now? They want them now? Okay. Just it's enter. Door opens, giant eagles fly out. Let me call and see if we have any eagles on the scene.
I think there's an office nearby you. Let me see if we can get some eagles there. I think if we just communicate with them. Jerry, is the Shire office, are they open? Are they open today?
Butterfly flies back to Gandalf, just like, you're on hold right now. He's just checking with the manager.
You want to make sure this is okay before they do it.
Butterfly's exhausted. Can butterflies really travel that fast? That distance? I don't know. But that's how it works, people. We might have gone way down that rabbit hole, probably a little too far. Oh, wait, no, we're looking that up. Okay. We're going to go a little farther. How fast can a butterfly?
The fastest, this is from afbeducation.org.
Sounds reliable.
The fastest butterflies in the world are skippers, which can fly 37 miles an hour.
Holy shit.
Most butterflies on average fly 5 to 12 miles an hour.
37 miles an hour, the butterfly?
37 miles an hour.
God damn. Okay, so
how long can butterflies fly?
That's got to be it then.
Well, navigation.
He must be getting them skipper butterflies.
Monarch butterflies have managed for millennia to navigate their way for a distance of some 3,000 miles each fall from Canada to Mexico.
Okay, but that's a fall. I mean, we're talking about, Mount Doom exploding.
We're talking about Mount Doom weather.
Did Gandalf send those orders? Did Gandalf send those orders like a month ago?
He would have had to have.
Anyway,
you have to be on time. You have to be on time with that.
All right, let's climb out of this giant rabbit hole we've just dug down into.
But I love the dragon, and I'd say one thing that I thought was stupid with the dragon stuff was Merlin gets this egg in one episode, gives it to the main dragon, the golden giant dragon by John Hurst.
and it's awesome.
And it's amazing and awesome. And you're like, oh wow, they're rebuilding the dragons. These will be something that come back then when Arthur brings on this magical kingdom.
Yeah,
that'll be cool to see how that dynamic goes. But
Kilgara is like, that's the dragon. I think I said it right. He is like so happy to have this new dragon egg. It's such a huge thing for him. And there's so appreciation to Merlin for that. Yeah, but like that dragon turns super freaking evil.
Yeah, it just the one season finale. I think it was the season finale for 4. When Morgana escapes after another failed attempt at killing everyone. She just runs.
She failed a lot, by the way.
Failed so many times.
I was like, Morgause, why don't you find a new intern?
But I get up again.
Like Morgause is like using her as like the agent to kill, and like she fails over and over again. And Morgause like is just like, that's all right, we'll try again. It's like,
that's
how about you get a new applicant? Like, because
no one else.
There's nobody else that wants to do this. Morgana just fails over and over again.
You can't find anyone else with any sort of grudge. No one.
Anyway,
yeah, she's just escaping at the end of 4 and runs into this dragon in the snow, and then the season ends, and you're like, oh shit, what are they gonna do? Like, what's happening? It doesn't make any sense why that dragon is there. And then the next season, it just picks up, and they're like, they were both captured, and he's been disfigured because he was trying to grow while he was in this tiny little space. And now he's loyal to her for some reason. It's like, but why? Because she's mean and Merlin's nice, and Merlin saved him. Merlin's the one who named him. And
Merlin's a dragon master. Like
Merlin's a dragon master.
Which does, I think, happen in one of the last episodes, like when that dragon goes to attack Merlin. I do think. Doesn't that happen? Like Merlin's just like
a couple times. He tells him off.
He's like, the dragon's like, oh, I have to listen to you. You are the you are the CEO of dragons.
I don't understand why it connects to her, and I don't understand.
Well, they need to make her more formidable.
I guess it was stupid.
But it does suck because it's like, Merlin saved this.
Why that dragon though?
Yeah,
and like, why did it end up there? They never ever explained that. They never even tried. They're just like, oh, here's the dragon.
Did the dragon save her life, like with his breath too? When she was down and out there?
Maybe. I think so. I think she was wounded.
Yeah. But I love the whole thing about how they make those blades with magic and with the dragon breath.
Oh, dragon fire. Like
dragon fire.
Excalibur. That's what I love. Another thing I love about the show is Excalibur. The Lady of the Lake was a girl that, she was like a girl that Merlin hooked up with, and she was like this werecat or something. And then she ends up dying, and he puts her in the lake. And this lake kind of becomes something they use a lot in the show.
Yeah.
Like when Lancelot came back, and that was annoying. I didn't like that, but it was kind of cool that he sent him off to
I didn't like that either. Yeah.
Then when she was the Lady of the Lake with the sword, and that was pretty sweet.
It was cool. And at the end when they throw it back in,
it's
just fucking
ding.
Speaking of Lancelot, I, for the most part, for the real Lancelot, I freaking loved him.
Yeah.
I thought he was a fantastic character. Noble, like exactly what you'd want Lancelot to be, which is an utter contrast to how you might find him in other depictions, by the way. But in
real
this,
Lancelot was a jerk. And then he just wrote all these ballads, and that's why everyone thinks he's so noble.
In some of them, in some of the depictions of him, Lancelot was not all he was made out to be. But in Merlin, they make Lancelot the freaking like the best. He's like the best fighter. He knows noble
magic.
He doesn't need he wants to be a knight. He dreamt of being a knight, but he comes from a poor background.
Yeah. So
he can't be, and like that's a rule in Camelot. Like you have to be like of a noble birth, right?
Yeah.
And he's not. So like they can't make him a knight, even though like Arthur recognizes that like he's like the best freaking fighter.
He's a great athlete.
Like he would be such an asset to us.
Qualified otherwise.
Yeah. I don't know. He's just a really cool character. And he actually finds out that Merlin is magic, and he keeps a secret, and it's cool. But of course, if you know anything about King Arthur lore, there is the story of Guinevere being in love with both Arthur and then being unfaithful to him with Lancelot. So they play off of the old legend where King Arthur is the main one that she loves, and she cheats on him. She's unfaithful to King Arthur with Lancelot, which she actually had a relationship with Lancelot, I think, before King Arthur, really.
Yeah.
Like when Lancelot first came around, she fell in love with him. And there was a whole adventure where they were away. And like they were captured, and he was there. He happened to be there when she got captured, and he protects her.
Mm-hmm.
They get out of this like cage fighting thing that they're in. It's cool. And they bond and they like fall in love with each other. But then he has to leave again, and she doesn't see him, and then she falls in love with Arthur. Like nothing wrong with that,
Yeah, ain't nothing wrong with that.
But what was it? Was it that she was being good when Lancelot came back into the picture, I think?
Yeah. So Lancelot gave his life to, so Merlin didn't have to give his life
right
to like save the kingdom. Morgana revived him, like corpse thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't really him. It was just like he just did whatever he was told. He didn't remember anything that Lancelot did or anything. And she sends him back and to like flirt with Guinevere because she didn't want Guinevere becoming queen because it was her throne. And she's like, I don't want another bitch sitting on my throne.
I'm just going to take care of this problem right now.
Take care of this problem by making her infidelities
in question. Unfaithfulness. I don't know.
Unfaithfulness. He's flirting with her, but she doesn't do anything. She's like, yeah, well, I'm getting married like to Arthur, right. And he's a great dude, so whatever. But then there's like this coin or necklace that she gets from him, and then that's when she just goes all out and they're making out, and Arthur finds
right. But it was magic.
It was magic though.
That caused it. Like it wasn't like she was actually an unfaithful, because Guinevere is very pure of heart the whole show until she's awesome. Manipulated with magic or something. She's like the nicest. I think it's pronounced Angel Colby. Yeah,
that's your real name.
Almost with a U in it. She's really good. She's always just so nice all the time. So it's like so shocking. Well, it's not shocking because we know it was magic, but like she can't even say anything when Arthur finds out.
And she didn't know. She thought like it was just like her feelings came back.
Right. She didn't know it was magic, and she can't believe what happened, and she's just like she can't even talk, and Arthur's just like, you must leave. Get out. And she does. She has to leave the kingdom, and she goes back and lives a simple life for a while.
That was a good arc, I think. What they did.
It was a good arc. It was really heartbreaking because we knew she didn't really do anything wrong by her own will. It was like it was magic, and it's so funny to me too sometimes, by the way, that like they're always surprised. I know this is like recurring episodes, but they're always surprised that it's magic. And magic is always the last thing they think of. But like every episode, there's magic that causes the problem every single time. But they're always like, oh, can't be magic. Like, what else could it be? It's like, no, it's been magic for the last 5 months. Like, what do you think it is this time?
Yeah. When Gaius goes to Uther every single time, and he's just like, Sire, I think this may not just be an isolated incident or an accident. I think this may be the works of a sorcerer. Gaius.
There's no sorcery allowed in the kingdom.
I've gotten rid of it.
That would be an offense. Yes, sir. Yes, you said this last week. But you said this last week when the goblin or the troll lady was here and you were in love with her.
You married a troll lady, remember that?
You remember when you mated with the troll lady? And she took control of the kingdom? You remember that?
And the griffin and the black knight and
and the shield with snakes on it.
The snake shield. And the one wizard kid who won the tournament and everything before that.
And how your son was born of magic. And it's so funny though. Like that's another reason like why the show to me is like, I love the show, but it's also kind of silly because they're all just so oblivious. Like magic every time. Like
I
And
did
then
not like what they did with Lancelot, though. The fact that
I
they
didn't
brought
like
him
how he
back,
came back and was bad,
and
and
he was like a ghost, and then he died again. Like, I think it was that season. I think that was season 4, and that's kind of when I started not enjoying the show as much, because they started doing stuff like that. It felt kind of just like to make drama.
yeah. Before that point, Santiago Cabrera, who plays Lancelot, like it was always so cool whenever he'd come back in the show because he was in an episode, then he wasn't in a while, then he'd show up again, kind of thing, and it was like awesome. Like he's a great recurring character.
Yeah.
And you just felt like, oh, he's there, it's gonna be okay. His ending I didn't like. I liked his ending like for his real life when he sacrificed himself.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
It sucked,
and
but it was good for him.
It was emotional for Guinevere and everybody, Arthur and Merlin, of course, and it was really cool. Like I said, like it was so cool that he knew Merlin's secret, and he knew that Merlin was behind a lot of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just so nice to see somebody like treat him as an equal.
Yeah,
like Lancelot would like in private like treat him like an equal.
Yeah, and he would even go up to him and be like, like you deserve credit for this. We've got to tell Arthur because like, it's not about that. It's not about that for me. Yeah. He was an awesome dude. So yeah, I kind of didn't like that it did that, but they also, I don't think of any other way that they could have got them to do the Lancelot Guinevere storyline with the Lancelot they had.
That's one of the most classic Arthurian storylines too.
Yeah, and he was such a bro to Arthur. Like, there's no way him in his right mind would have done that, and there's no way Guinevere that we know from the show would have done that either. So they had to make some crazy crap up to do that. But it was also, to me, they kind of started doing that a lot. They would bring back a character as like a ghost, or they would make them evil for no reason with magic, and and it was just like I didn't like it when they did that. But let's talk about the main daddy of the magic hating world and the person who suspected magic the least, Uther here. Uther.
Yeah, played by Anthony Head, who, by the way, is also
not just a head. He has a
recurring character. That's true. That's true. It's awesome. He's a recurring character in the new show that I highly recommend called Ted Lasso. He's a recurring character in the show. And he's also a little evil in that show. He's not evil, but he's a character you don't really like. I gotta say though, Uther, there's a lot of times you really don't like Uther, but there's a lot of times you also are like, okay, Uther, like, well said. Like, yes.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes he makes good points, and you're just like, yeah, that probably is the best thing for the kingdom. And it sucks when he's just like, oh, that woman's son is magic, let's burn him in front of everyone. And you're like, wow, you're a dick. But then also, magic is the thing that is terrorizing the kingdom every single week.
That he realizes again every single week.
He's like, But I mean, like, it's proving his point every time when a magical griffin and a witch and whatever, it's always something magical that's coming to destroy the city
and he can always play that card. He's like, so am I just supposed to let this magic like kill my people?
Yeah.
Like, but part of the reason why that magic might be coming to kill the people is because he persecuted them.
Well, also, yeah, that is what I was going to say though too, is a lot of those magical things that came were from like maybe one person. Maybe it was, what's her name?
Morgause.
They say
Nimue.
They say Nimue in the show. That's it.
She was the antagonist in season 1.
Yeah, she was the one that was sending most of the bad magical things to Camelot in the first one, because she was the one that helped with the magical birth of Arthur. And then she was persecuted. So I can see why she'd be mad.
Of course. And to them, it's sort of like they're trying to kill Uther from the magical people's point of view. It's like, let's take out this tyrant.
Let's take out Hitler.
Let's take out Hitler, who is. So it's totally justified.
Yeah.
When you look at it like that.
Yeah.
Even though we don't really see it from that point of view, we're seeing it from sort of
the
point of view that
you're also, but you're like, they're also like poisoning the town. Like, they're also like poison the water supply. They'll also send a monster that kills people, and like the Griffin was just attacking towns. So just you flying
it's
around.
Just me. Yeah.
But Uther, he was kind of a jerk, and sometimes you liked him though, and then sometimes he would do something that would like speak up to his son. He'd be a cool guy for his son. and then other times you're just like what are you doing? You know?
I got so mad because I fell asleep one night. I'm just remembering this
Oh,
while watching this.
yeah, I think I
And
remember.
you wake up randomly at night, and the show has been playing on Netflix on autoplay,
Mhm.
and a few episodes had gone by, and I wake up, I don't know what, like 2 a.m. or something on the couch, and all I hear is Morgana say, "I just found out Uther is my father." And I was just like, "Gosh darn it! Like that's how I find out." I was so mad. I was like, "That's the worst time." What are the
Just,
chances I would wake up at that time?
no build up to it or anything. You don't
I
get
just
the-
found out Uther is my father. She's just talking casually to Morgos. It had already happened, but like, oh, I was so mad.
you missed the reveal and just hear
reveal.
her complaining about it.
Yeah, but I was always wondering why is Uther so like, it was a weird relationship he had with Morgana. It was sort of like it's the king's ward, but he's very loving to her. Like, yes, he protects her, but why is he loving? Like, I almost thought at times was like, is this romantic? Like, why is it like they're so close like that? And come to find out that he reveals that that's his daughter and he can't tell her. And
For a while I thought
amazing.
it was because he was like trying to set her up as a love interest for Arthur,
Yeah, I was confused.
because Mordred is like from the real lore, he's like a son of incest from Morgana and Arthur.
Right.
And that's why he's an evil little boy. And also too, do you remember, I think Guinevere was like making eyes at Merlin at the beginning of the show. Do you remember that? I remember that.
Oh yeah, they had a little thing at the beginning. It was brief.
He was just like, she was like, you wouldn't recognize if someone liked you if they're standing right next to you. You'd be like, oh, I think I would. And then she looked at him like, I like you.
Yeah, I remember that.
Never happened from that.
Yeah, no. And Merlin has no interest. Well, he does. He had like a girlfriend at one point.
Yeah, Lady of the Lake.
Lady of the Lake. That's right. Yeah, Uther was an interesting character, and he met his demise.
What I didn't like was his end kind of sucked. I mean, it was kind of nice that he like stood up for his son and he fought one more time, but he was just like a shell of a man.
He was a shell of a man.
And then when they brought him back again, he was an evil ghost. Like,
I didn't like that.
I didn't like that at all.
I was kind of hoping he'd come back and be like, son, I was wrong.
Yeah.
Or like, but no, he was like totally like, how could you let this happen?
He's like, you
a
married
servant
a servant,
girl.
I'm gonna attack her. And you're like, what are you doing to the kingdom? And just
my kingdom, what I built.
Yeah, he was so selfish.
I have to say, this show was sort of like a horror movie, this episode.
Yeah.
But
there's a lot of
he was
scary
an evil
episodes
ghost.
in the last two seasons, especially I think the last season, a lot of scary episodes.
Yeah. It's like, oh, okay, so there's another character that leaves a bad taste in your mouth. I will say with Lancelot, when Merlin put Lancelot back where he was, didn't Lancelot like say thank you?
Yeah, he did wake up.
He woke up and was like, thank you for. So it was at least nice they had that moment at the end.
Yeah.
But I would have liked Uther to have like a redemption moment, like be
or
who
like
you are,
some
son.
reason that he was.
He didn't need to like give up all his
ghost.
beliefs.
Yeah, like maybe like there was something like when he crossed over that made him an evil ghost or something, and that wasn't who he really was. It was just magic things making him evil or something. They should have done something like that, because what they ended up doing was they used him to manipulate Arthur into letting him free. So like Arthur was like, oh, I love you, or he said, I love you, son, to make him turn around as he was leaving, so that he could
turn
be
around in this sort of what was it? It was sort of
ghost world.
Some ghost world he went into. He found the door to. And if you turn around, that's how they get back in.
Yeah. So that's like why he said I love you to his son.
After berating him. It was so weird because he just yelled at him for like 5 minutes about, you did this to my kingdom, I hate you. Yeah. So just a disappointment. And then he's walking away. He's like, I love you, son. That's weird. But then it made sense. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So I didn't like that. I didn't like that they did that. I think they just wanted to bring the actor back, for the last season is probably what they did. But I didn't like how they did it. And that's just like what I got for a while.
He was never that evil in real life.
No, he was never. Like, he was literally way more evil as a dead ghost than he was when he was actually king. Let's talk about the rest of the knights here then.
Yeah. Some
Let's talk about
bros,
just the rest of the knights. The rest of the bros. I love the bro squad that ends up
Good bro
assembling.
squad. So we talked about Lancelot. I'd say my next favorite is Gawain.
Oh, hands down.
Well, I think we
Gawain?
meet in like a bar fight.
Yes.
And by the way, for the longest time, none of these guys could be knights because they weren't from noble birth, even though they were
like awesome fighters,
awesome,
great people.
But that's one thing. That's one thing that Arthur changed.
Yeah,
which was nice. But Gawain he's sort of the Finnan, if you know Last Kingdom, of the group. He's funny, but he's also super skilled at fighting. He's one of the best swordsmen I think they've got.
Yeah. Charming guy. I think he was even hitting on Guinevere. Like everyone would hit on Guinevere when they first met her.
Oh yeah.
and then he was fun.
He treated Merlin pretty well too.
Yeah. Did he die? I think he died. Yeah, he died. I remember that now. Morgana killed him, which sucked. I didn't like that at all. That was another thing I didn't like. But overall, I liked his character. He was a fun guy.
Yeah. Leon.
He
was sort of the I would say the Steapa.
Yeah.
Or the Leofrich, if you Last Kingdom reference of the group, because he was like one of the knights for Camelot.
Mm-hmm.
That was like one of Arthur or Uther's right hand men. They always go on their conquests for the kingdom. But then he became, after Uther died and Arthur was taken over, kind of part of that bro group, and he would always be with them on their, I think like when the kingdom got taken over by Morgana and Morgause, he was one of the survivors, and that's kind of when that group formed.
Yeah.
I always liked him. He was always cool.
Yeah, he was just always there. And then Percival, he was a big dude. He
came in later in like season 4, I think, or something.
He was the one that just showed up with Lancelot. He's like, oh, and I have Percival, and he'll be a knight with us now. Okay.
Look at his biceps.
Look at that.
He was cool. It was cool to watch him fight. He added a new dynamic to the group.
He was a big dude. Everyone else is just chainmail, covered, and he's like, I'm gonna go cut off chainmail. I'm gonna go some cut off chainmail. One of his cool scenes too was the episode where Gawain died and they had him tied up to a tree, and he just Hercules out of there. He's like,
yes.
And like they didn't even have that scripted. They just had the actor tied up, and they're like, "Yeah, we're not letting it go."
They're just filming the whole time.
And like, we'll just film, see what he does.
And then the last night that they had was Elian, Guinevere's brother.
And he had kind of a crappy ending too. That's one of the reasons I didn't like that season. Like, fought swords and died, and she was in this cave getting made evil. It was stupid.
I didn't like the way he ended it either.
I didn't like that they just started killing knights like that either. I wish we could have got that happy ending with the knights. As cheesy and predictable as that might be, like that's what I wanted. It was a cheesy, predictable show. That's what I wanted, and I liked him. He was a cool guy. It was even kind of odd because he was still like loyal to Arthur when he found out his sister was like cheating on him. He's like, well, I'm going to stay Lord Arthur. You can kick her out. He did.
Yeah.
So he was a bro.
He was a bro. Just a great bro group. A lot of great bro moments between them. Like, again, it was frustrating because sometimes Merlin would be left out of that group. He'd kind of be on the sidelines. But like I said, Lancelot and Gawain were often super cool to Merlin.
What are some of your favorite moments from the whole show?
One thing I love about the show are they have some like cool tournaments, like old tournaments, and they'll have these battles. I really like those episodes, or a jousting tournament.
I'd say the Black Knight.
Yes, the Black Knight episode was one of my favorites.
They had a little too much like shaky cam with the fights, but they just made him so cool.
He literally just stood outside waiting for the next competitor all night long.
And just always making challenges.
That episode is definitely one of my favorites. Looking back on it,
is the Black Knight something from Arthur Legend? I wonder, because like the Black Knight in like Monty Python, who just he keeps fighting even after all his arms and legs are chopped off.
I think it is.
So it must be something. One of mine was just when, like, anytime Merlin would just get out the staff from the fairies, the blue thing, and just start blasting people. I mean,
Yes.
he's this great, nice guy. And then so I don't know why. I always just assumed he like would go non-lethal, you know?
Yeah.
And he just obliterates people with, I mean, the staff
Obliterate.
just disintegrates them. Just
I know. It's like in Mandalorian with that one gun that like just explodes the
sniper rifle with the Jawas.
The Jawas. There's a lot of great moments. One of my favorite ones is when a troll comes in and manipulates Uther and kisses him and makes love to him. I'm just kidding. This was a silly episode, but it was hilarious. It was 2 episodes.
2 episodes. They made a 2-parter out of this weird fart joke, this disgusting fart joke thing. They made it like normally a 2-episode thing from a show is
usually
like,
matters.
Yeah, it's usually the one that's like, this is where like some crazy character development's coming in. This is where something that's gonna wreck the show. You know, this is where this is gonna be like the big stakes. This is where we're putting the budget in. No, it's gonna be the one where Uther fucks a troll.
Yeah.
And she dies farting. And she dies farting.
Farts a lot. She comes in and basically she disguised herself as beautiful. And what was hilarious about it was that like everything that's nice is disgusting to her. And everything that's really gross is like really nice to her.
It's like,
so, like
when
kissing,
you're a kid and you're like, let's make it opposite. Ooh, that's gross.
Insulting her is like actually complimenting her.
You look so hideous.
So, like if you call her beautiful, you'd be like, what? But like she has little henchmen with her, and whenever she's back to her normal form, it's like, oh, you're just hideous. It's fantastic. And she's like, oh, thank you. And she eats horse dung.
Oh my god.
She's like comes like, I got you a treat. And she's like, what is it? Horse dung. And she's like, oh my god, yes. It's like, oh my god, this is so stupid, but hilarious at the same time.
I think one of the things that was kind of interesting was the fact that I thought as soon as she got revealed as being this disgusting troll, that's who Uther was with. I thought that's like when the episode would end. But that happens, and then the episode just keeps going. And like,
well, he was under that spell or a potion or something.
Yeah, he had like a chain around his neck and a spell.
A chain, yeah.
And
he couldn't see who she was, and she was just.
Well, he was just in love with her.
So she basically took over the kingdom, and like they were changing the contract or something, like the marriage contract, and
they were like getting Arthur out of the succession,
the deed or the succession, yeah. And she's just herself. And everybody's like looking like, what the hell is he doing?
Just eating horse crap in like front of people at the meeting, just rah, rah, rah. And Uther's just like licking her all lovingly.
Yeah, and you can't say anything to Uther because he'll get mad. Like
he's the king. He loves her. Burns people,
and she's just so grossed out whenever she has to kiss him. Props to like the real actress, the actress that played her, like in a human form, because she's like hunched over and like making these weird faces, and she did a great job.
From like this
beautiful. She's so animated. Yeah, she's so animated, but the troll looked good too. Like they did a good job with the prosthetics or the effects on that was pretty good actually.
I think for a show the effects really weren't that bad, but the one that was really bad that we talked about was this alien thing that
not like, only was it bad, but it was like, what the hell? Why?
That didn't make any sense. They never ever came back to it ever.
He's in this cave and a freaking alien is just there. The horrible looking. It had like a human face, but then like a giant blue head and like a real weird body, like little arms and like a little belly, and like it's weird.
And it doesn't exactly heal him. It just like takes care of him while he's healing. So like it wasn't really magical. But then Merlin says like, "Oh, you're one of the first magical people." And he's like, "Yay!" And then just never comes back. And
it is so weird.
It's like, well, why did we need this?
Didn't need to happen. That was a mistake, I think.
Oh, and one of the other frustrating things was around this episode, I think, that was with me with the show was Morgana just is invincible. And like always the bad guy. When it first started, I was like, actually, this is pretty cool. I like this.
Yeah. She was becoming a bad guy?
Well, yeah. But the whole first season where she was a bad guy too, where she'd like finally committed.
Yeah.
I was like, this is pretty cool. Season 4, I was like, oh, she's still going. Okay.
Yeah.
And then season 5, Oh,
Still her.
she's still the bad guy. And then in the first episode, Mordred actually stabs her from behind. And I'm like, oh, here we go. Yeah. Like we're getting a new bad guy. Like we're going to have Mordred set up now as like the bad guy who maybe doesn't know it yet, or maybe he's playing people, whatever. Nah, she walks away. She's fine. Sure, she just got stabbed like right through her gut with a sword, from end to end, or side to side or whatever. But nah, she's fine.
She's fine.
That was one thing I was like, why do we have to just keep using her? Like I like that she's evil and stuff, but like we've had her. Like we need a new one.
Yeah. And Mordred's an interesting character too, because we meet him as a child, and Merlin and him have this like telepathic connection, because Mordred is also this like powerful. He's like another prodigy, basically.
Yeah, that was interesting when he was a kid, because then he said, Emrys, I'm going to come for you. I'm going to kill Arthur or something like that. But then when he runs into him again, he's just chill and he doesn't really use magic anymore. No,
and I think he like is trying to be good. Like he's trying to, for a while, like be a knight and.
Yeah, but I don't get it though. Like, and why doesn't he really? He uses it once, I think.
Yeah.
I think he pushes Morgana with the Force real quick when he runs into her, but then he even says like, "My powers don't match yours, Morgana." But it's like you were the prodigy kid. Like you were like you were like the evil Merlin as a kid.
Yeah.
Now you just don't even use it.
Then the vision became Mordred killing Arthur.
And he did.
And that one came true. And they're just trying, like, Merlin's just doing everything he can to avoid that. Mordred was an interesting character for sure.
I just didn't get it. I was like, why isn't he using his magic when he was like so magic proud when he was a kid?
Yeah.
I didn't get that at all.
A lot of props though to Bradley James, who played Arthur, Gawain, it was Ian Mackin, Tom Hopper, Santiago Cabrera, and Rupert Young, all these knights. I mean, they're fighting, and whoever was like the cameos, like the Black Knight and some of the other guys who came in, it was just awesome choreography.
Oh yeah, you could tell the guy who played Arthur did a lot of it too. Like you could see him in it most of the time.
It was believable. It wasn't like we had our complaints about Cursed, this new one that came out, where the choreography just wasn't that good. For most of it, the Lancelot stuff in Cursed was very good, but a lot of it wasn't good. But this, for being an older show, it was solid. It was so solid.
It was very good.
Let's just mention a few of the other like cool cameos, people you might recognize. Gary Lewis, who was an Outlander, played Cullum Mackenzie in Outlander. We get to see him in a recurring role as Alator, who is this he's this powerful druid, right?
He was like a torturer at first.
Yeah, he was like a torturer, and at first he was like against Merlin. But then he like sees Merlin as Emrys, and he's like, "Oh, you're the one who I need to be with," and change his side. It was cool. We mentioned Charles Dance plays Aredian, who is like the magic hunter. He's from Game of Thrones.
Tywin Lannister.
Oh, Liam Cunningham, who is in Game of Thrones.
Oh, that's right. He was the one sorcerer guy who had the daughter who was betraying them.
Exactly.
Yeah, he was good in that. He
was good. The guy from Pirates of the Caribbean. He's the pirate with the one eye missing.
Oh yeah, Cedric.
He plays Cedric.
Remember, he's in there real quick. I know Alexander. I'm going to say his last name probably wrong. Sadig. He was Kanan. He was a bad guy. The one episode where I thought that Arthur was going to find out. He was the one attacking Merlin's town.
No, I know, but I know him from other things.
I know him from Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Okay.
He was a doctor on that. I saw him again it was a movie with Chadwick Boseman, who was a cop. I can't remember what it was called. But he just had a quick role in that. What else is he in?
Game of Thrones. That's what he is. He's Doran Martell in Game of Thrones.
Oh, is he? Oh, damn.
He's in Peaky Blinders. That's right. Oh, yeah. He's in Peaky Blinders.
Oh, okay.
He's got 6 episodes in Peaky Blinders. I forgot it. He's in Peaky Blinders. He's in Gotham. He plays Ra's al Ghul in Gotham.
Oh, damn.
He's in The Bad Batch, too.
Clive Russell, who played Bayard. He was an Outlander. Yeah. He was the the grumpy uncle.
Yep.
And then he was also in Game of Thrones. He was the fish guy.
Yeah, that's right. So Game of Thrones is well represented. Oh, and the other guy is James Cosmo. He's in Game of Thrones. He's he's the guy who's at the wall. He's the head of the wall.
Oh, yeah.
You remember him? He's a bit in other things too. He's one of those characters that pops up a lot.
Yeah.
Chronicles of Narnia.
What's he in?
He's in Troy. That's right. He's in Troy. Remember him in Troy?
I don't remember him in Troy. I do not.
Yeah, he's one of the
But
dads.
now I have to watch Troy.
Me too. Oh, he's in Sons of Anarchy. Oh, he's a quite the nice resume. Braveheart. Oh yeah, he's in Braveheart. I remember him in
Braveheart in a while. I need to watch Braveheart.
Yeah. So he's a Scottish actor, I believe. So he was in an episode. Also, the guy who plays Mundungus Fletcher is the guy who he's like in it for like a minute. He sells the one guy the shield in season 1 with the snakes on it. That might be the first episode, or
I think it was
early.
I think it was the second one.
Yeah, it was so early. But yeah, so there's just a couple nods to some actors that we've seen in the past.
Yeah, a lot of great cameos.
They would just kind of come in and out of the show.
That's our thoughts on Merlin. I mean, we enjoyed the show. It's too bad the way it ended. It's an older show. We know it already aired. It's not something current, but it's something we both liked, and we're just like, let's just sit down and talk about it. So,
yeah, we really did enjoy the show. We recommend people watch it if you really like that genre. Again, it's not going to be a show that, is going to necessarily like stay with you after you watch it as much as some other shows do. Maybe it will. It just didn't so much for us, but we enjoyed it. It was thoroughly enjoyable to watch, and it scratched that itch.
That's what we were looking for. Just medieval show, fantasy thing, and it was good. So if you're looking for something like that, I'd still watch it. You might be disappointed by the ending. If you're not, there's probably something wrong with you. But I would still say watch it. I still enjoyed most of it. I'll probably watch it through again at some point. Thank you for listening.
Yes.
Make sure if you liked this, leave a comment, like the episode, subscribe, share it to all your friends and your family. Send it 1,000,000 times to them.
1,000,000 times.
1,000,000 times.
100,000 times.
100,000 times. No, you don't have to flood them.
Repeat it. Yeah, flood them.
You don't have to do that. But help out with that algorithm. We're trying to beat that algorithm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's like we always say.
Always say it.
It's like our trademark, original.
Our trademark. We've never not said it, really.
Yeah. No one's ever made
We've never done this besides us.
No.
Only us.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.